Hi all, I thought I'd do a follow-up video today on D4 opening names. So I haven't really touched on that so far in this sequence of videos. This is the master collection of chessworld.net, an Ajax driven thing which I wrote myself, but I've filled in many of the annotations with the help of Wiki for some of these annotations here. So we're going to have a look at D4 now and the major opening systems, how they're named. So the Queen's Gambit systems are when black plays D5 symmetrically. It's like both sides are having an arm wrestling contest. So similar to E4, E5, where the most popular is this kind of continuation. It's like both sides are putting more and more pressure on like E5 or trying to defend it. But in the Queen's Gambit systems, there is the kind of same logic when black plays D5, this arm wrestling in the centre. So white is playing now C4 as the most common move. So this is the Queen's Gambit, but it's not really a gambit. Black will do a lot of damage to their position if they try and hold on to the pawn. But don't want to get into the theory too much, just the opening names. So if black accepts, it's the Queen's Gambit accepted. And if black declines, it's the Queen's Gambit declined, as you would expect. Okay, so let's look at particular names within these things. So Queen's Gambit declined. For example, the Tartakoa defense would go like this: knight c3, knight f6. So again, this sort of arm wrestling over d5, putting more and more pressure. Bishop g5, pinning that knight. Bishop e7, now e3, castles. And here, after knight f3, the move h6. This is the neo-orthodox variation. Now if bishop to h4, then b6 is the Tartakoa system. So black's solving this queen's bishop issue by trying to fianchetto it on b7, say. And usually, black might play c5 later as well. So this is the Tartakoa variation. Now if bishop takes f6, that's just again neo-orthodox with bishop f6. Bishop f4, another move which is possible. Okay, let's go on, find another major name. Let's go backwards, in fact. So d4, d5, c4, e6, putting more pressure. So bishop g5. Now here, if black plays the move c6, if c takes d here, pawn takes, we've got the Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation. So this is a positional line with c6. So positional, well, white usually has a minority attack plan here with the black pawn c6. Later, white will play often b4, b5, trying to dampen this structure. Okay, let's have a look at what the Rogozin system is. So c4, e6, knight c3, knight f6. Now instead of bishop g5, knight f3. So that's venturing away. Now bishop b4 is the Rogozin system. So this is kind of a hybrid between the Nimzo-Indian and the Queen's Gambit declined. Black's already got a pawn on d5, when sometimes in Nimzo-Indian there's the flexibility to, for example, fianchetto this Queen's bishop and to put more pressure on at e4. So the Rogozin system. Now what is the Semi-Slav? I'm using the excellent reference book Walter Korn's Modern Chess Openings, and basically exploring that for the names. So knight f3 now, and if we play c5, this is the Semi-Slav. So why is it a Semi-Slav as compared to a Tarash? Alright, keep a note of this position, and we're going to explore together now. So we're going to rewind. Now Tarash is very, very famous for his opening. A great player. So in the real Tarrasch, it's knight c3, c5. So the semi-Tarrasch had knight f3, had the knights developed. So black had played actually knight to king, bishop e, knight f6, knight f3, c5. That was semi-Tarrasch. So real Tarrasch is sort of an acceleration then to play c5 immediately, the Tarrasch defense. So very aggressive straight away, not moving any knights. So it was after the German master Sigebert Tarrasch, and he had the theory that the mobility black receives, even at the expense of suffering from pawn structure issues like the isolated pawn, it was worth it. Okay, so that's the real Tarrasch defense. Let's have a look for another name. Say another famous master, the Chigorin defense. How does that go, you may ask? So c4, now knight c6. I'll scroll a bit up, sorry. Knight c6 is the Chigorin defense. I'll scroll up here rather. So the Russian Grandmaster Mikhail Chigorin, who was the adopted father of the Soviet chess school, so he tried to break the rules sometimes, and sometimes with great success. Now let's look now at the Albion counter gambit. So after d5, c4, e5 is the Albion counter gambit. Very interesting gambit. I played a lot of this in Blitz with d4. Very interesting idea. Now those are very active defences. Now the very popular on the rage at the moment is on the Slav system. So d4, d5, c4, c6, the Slav defence. And in here we have a lot of variations to have a look at. So Semi-Slav, for example, is, let's see, we develop two knights, and black doesn't develop the queen's bishop, but just plays e6. We have Semi-Slav here, Semi-Slav defense. And the Moran system in particular would go like this. So if we rewind a bit, so knight f3, develop the other knight, e6, e3. So Semi-Slav to start off with. Queen knight to queen 2, so knight d7 in other words. So black takes here immediately, plays b5, liberating position a bit, plays a6 as opposed to going to play c5 soon, and after e4 plays c5 here. So Semi-Slav Moran, so a major named opening system, the Moran system. Okay, so there's quick liberating ideas, not developing the bishop here, just going for this quick liberation on the queen side. Let's look for more names. The Slav defense Dutch variation. So how does that go? So d4, d5, c4, c6, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, and now pawn takes pawn here, pawn takes c4, pawn to queen rook 4, bishop to f5. This reminds me of my game in the London Classic last year, which I didn't really know the theory. So this is called the Shack defense here. So e3 is the Dutch variation when you play e3. Let's have a look when you play knight e5. That's the Kroos attack. So the Kroos attack, which we saw in the World Championship match. So that's very interesting. That what I said was a bit more passive is the Dutch variation. If you want, I'll go for a quick variation here of the Dutch, how it should have gone in my game against the IM last year in the London Classic. Simon Ansel. So pawn takes pawn, a4, bishop f5. So bishop to queen knight f5, rather annoying. Castles. And now, say black castled. What's white's plan here? Queen e2, that vacates d1 for the rook. And say bishop to g4. This has given us a bad idea. In fact, for some reason, a question mark. And I wonder why now. Is it because white is preparing to go for that d5 strategic move? Or is it e5? Okay, chasing the knight. Now chasing the bishop. Now playing knight e4. Is it looking like a dangerous position? I think this all happened in a game of Spassky versus Cobo, Havana, 1962.